God afton, eller god kväll som man säger på svenska. Jag står här, heter Jan Reidnell och ska fungera som moderator på den här presentationen av Audientes. Vi gör det för en svensk publik och vi gör det för en dansk publik. Och därför kommer vi prata engelsk.
Exactly.
Men vi kommer att göra lite uppehåll i presentationerna för att göra en sammanfattning på svenska till våra svenska lyssnare. Alla ni som lyssnar har möjligheter att kunna ställa frågor. Och det är chatten ni ska utnyttja. Vi kommer inte koppla upp er, utan det kommer vara i chatten. Ställ frågor löpande. Och så kommer det på slutet av presentationen att vi svarar på de frågorna som ni ställer till Steen Thygesen.
Yes.
Då går vi över till engelsk och så vidare. Who are you?
Yeah. Who am I? Well, I'm the lucky person who has gotten the task to help bring out Audientes into the world and help a lot of people around the world who typically cannot afford the hearing aids that are conventionally on sale.
Okay.
So that's our mission. Help millions of people in the world who suffer from hearing loss.
And nobody does this before, or?
Not in the way we are trying to do it, no.
Okay.
And I will, of course, explain about that. Of course, there's hearing aids in the world, but good quality, affordable hearing aids are really hard to come by.
Mm. So those equipments we have today,
yeah.
And what can you say, what you are doing versus they doing?
Yeah.
What kind of USP, unique selling points do you have?
Well, I would say we have looked hard at the whole process of acquiring a hearing aid and having it fitted for one's hearing profile. We have looked very hard at how does that take place? What are the bumps along the road in doing that? What are the complicating factors? So we have looked at that and we have built that whole process into our offering as a seamlessly integrated hearing clinic. So we basically have, as we say, we have built in the hearing clinic in our product.
Okay.
And that's the sort of main differentiator, I would say. There's other differentiating factors right now with our initial product that it looks more like a headset than an actual classic hearing aid that sits behind the ear. We've gone after some other design criteria to really help create a sturdy, robust, and affordable product. And I will, of course, dive more into that in a few minutes here.
So I tell the Swedish audience, produkten är framtagen i Danmark och det är en dansk produkt. Och vi vet att ni i Danmark är duktiga på så att säga, teknik omkring de här orglarna. Vi har alla hört talas om Bang Olufsen i Sverige. Mm. Och den här produkten är framtagen för att kunna klara av en stor marknad över hela världen. Yeah. Inte i liten skala utan i stor skala. Många, ska vi säga, produktioner, en stor produktion för att kunna trycka ner priset bakom det hela. Shall we just talk a little bit of the quality of the product also?
Yeah, so the quality of the product is essentially, it's designed as I said, robust device that should be able to last many years. Mm. We aim for, we say 5 years is sort of basically a good aim because 5 years means you really have to design the product for being thrown about and used and abused sometimes. Mm. So we've actually made the product in a way that you can replace parts that are often worn, like the earbuds, wires, and so on. You can replace that. You can have the battery replaced and so on. So there's a few things around that. Of course, it is an affordable product. Basically a couple of $100 is what we're aiming for in retail plus local sales tax. But that's it. So it's compared with a hearing aid costing many $1,000s. It is really a consumer product more than anything else.
Det ska vara en produkt som man säljer över disk.
Yeah.
Och den ska vara enkel att använda och den ska vara robust att använda.
Yeah,
och den ska hålla minst 5 år för att kunna klara stötar, problem och allting annat. In what way could you say this is a new thinking about this kind of products? Because we can see some devices which are having small batteries and very sensitive, very small, but this one is not so small.
And so basically this offering is designed out of a lot of, you can say, investigation into the real needs in the emerging economies like India and many other places where essentially, I mean, being able to afford a product is one thing, but being able to take it into use is another thing. And those are the things we have been looking at. So we've been really, you can say, investigating the real needs in those markets versus the needs for basically a product designed for the Western markets. And that's why we have gone differently about creating this solution.
Så produkten är gjord för, kan man säga, en världsmarknad. Indien och Thailand och USA och så vidare. Och inte så känslig produkt, inte så liten produkt, utan det ska vara en robust produkt som kan klara länge och ska kunna ställa in sig själv. Well, shall we having the introduction here?
Absolutely.
You can see what kind of company you are.
So we have already unveiled a few of the unique selling points that I will, of course, emphasize as we move along. But basically, think about this opportunity in a scale that is not normally associated with the hearing aid business is essentially what we're about. Maybe very first to introduce the people behind the company, because of course we all know business is between people, and our ability to understand the people who will be using our product, but also dealing with the whole market in its own right is one of the key things we need to master. Hossein Yelve is software architect that has been with Nokia for more than 16 years. As part of Nokia, he really learned to develop software for we call them tight environments. So basically products with not a lot of processing capacity and that are being sold at basically very high quantities in markets around the world. But Hossein got this idea about creating this new type of product as Nokia was actually winding down its development activities in Copenhagen following, you can say, the overall demise of that whole mobile phone business. A lot of good people were set free to go and explore new ideas. Hossein was one of them. So he got the idea back in 2012 to why don't we create something, a product that can help millions of people in the world that doesn't otherwise have a solution with their hearing loss, and why don't we make it sort of so you can basically run the hearing test yourself? That was his original idea, and that's what we have been, you can say, researching, developing, having funded, and now we're going to market with that.
So you started 8 years ago with this, just together with Hossein Yelve.
I did not actually, but I knew Nokia. I knew Hossein from Nokia, where I also worked. I had actually left Nokia at that time, but basically, you can say Hossein is the originator of the idea, and spent a good few years, actually, a couple of years, understanding the real problem, traveling around the world, talking to people. You can say industry experts, people in the markets, end users, to really understand this issue at its heart. And I think this is why we have created something that is quite original in its approach, because we did the research from the outset.
Så 2012 så började Hossein Yelve, som finns i Danmark, här i Köpenhamn, som då jobbade, kan man säga, vid Nokia, eller fick ju hitta på saker och ting, kan man säga, vid sidan av det vanliga, och ställa frågan omkring hur kan vi hitta en produkt som är en hörapparat, som man säger på svensk, som kan fungera i olika typer av miljöer, som är självinställande. Self-instructed,
self-adjusting, self-fitting as we call it.
In what way? Tell us what happened.
Well, is it okay if we
right?
Because
we're going back.
This is definitely something.
We have one guy more. It's called Steen Thygesen. Who is that?
So basically, I have spent my career actually building up new businesses in new markets. I've been working for companies like Symbian, who was you can say, the original smartphone platform that dominated that whole industry for quite a few years, for almost a decade. And I was a part of that since '97, helping define and bring out that platform and license that to device manufacturers and working with stakeholders all over the world, actually. I've been with Nokia for some years. I've been with Microsoft in the US, but really at Nokia, I was part of the management team in one of the largest businesses at Nokia, a 9 billion euros business area that helped, that basically created affordable smartphone and feature phone products for what we call the mass market. So you can say I have been in various roles involved in bringing out new innovations, commercializing ideas, and partner with people around the world to essentially realize the potential in these ideas. I met Hossein about 3 years ago. I was actually trying to persuade him to collaborate with the company that I was working with at that time, a design and development firm from Silicon Valley. But Hossein actually persuaded me that I should come and help bring out this innovation into the market, because that's what he had learned. He needed someone with that background amongst a team of really good technologists. So that's how I became involved. So we have been spending some years now moving the idea forward and really making Audientes investment ready. And at that point in time, about in the beginning of this year, we really started making the way towards the actual stock market, and we conducted this IPO for Audientes in about a bit more than a month ago.
Så man kan säga att Hossein och Steen känner varandra sen samma företag. Nokia har utvecklat produkter på världsmarknaden och utvecklat många olika produkter på marknaden, och att det var Hossein som övertygade dig, Sten, om att gå in i den här marknaden istället för att gå till Silicon Valley och hitta på någonting annat, om man säger så. Board of directors, what do you have behind you?
So basically, as part of our process of moving the company up a notch, making it investor ready, so to speak, we really had to bring in some people that had industry from a process and a market that to us is really important, and that is the process of achieving certifications by the FDA and by the European authorities. Because part of our mission, yes, it's affordable product, but really part of our goal is to have it receiving the approval to be sold as a hearing aid, which is a kind of like a protected title, so to speak, in some markets. Not in all, but in some markets. And for example, our aim is to sell this in the US market under a new legislation called the Over-the-Counter Act that FDA is working on right now. So we need to get that level of approval. And the same thing in Europe. We would like to get that approval to be able to go into markets, you can say some of the public sector opportunities there is, and we need a product that has got that certification. So our board all has expertise in that process.
How long time will this kind of agreements or what kind of certification process, how long does it take?
Well, it can take a good while depending on what product it is. Since it's a hearing aid, the actual certification needed is you can say easily attainable than if you're developing a drug from scratch. So in our aim, we are seeking that in 2022, which is basically, you can say 1.5 to a years from now is our goal. That's the FDA approval. But if I can just finish the board. So basically, if I start with Elsebeth is our world, you can say, representative. She has been traveling to more than 100 countries and built up subsidiaries for some of the Danish, one of the Danish hearing aid companies in both in Latin America and in Europe, in France. And she really has that understanding about what it takes to go from this, you can say, good idea to building a business, and has got a wealth of experience from being involved in different ventures in the medtech industry.
Where is she working today? With what?
Elsebeth is, you can say, is occupying herself with being involved in various startups. She and I are both mentors at the Technical University of Denmark. They have sort of like a deep tech mentor program working with startups. So I met Elsebeth there, and she has actually been, you can say, advisor to Hossein from quite a few years ago as well.
Lot of experiences.
Yes, a lot of experience. Gitte has actually expertise from a Swedish company that was acquired by an American pharmaceutical company. So she also understands a lot about this process of getting the actual regulatory approval, taking products to market, and has got really been managing both, you can say, the financial side, but also the project side of various offerings. And Paul André is beside being the chairperson of Audientes, he is also the chairperson of a Swedish listed company on the Nasdaq First North list in Stockholm called 2cureX.
What are they doing?
Yeah, it's basically it's cancer treatment with I think some of these new concepts of basically, I can't remember the actual terminology for it, but basically finding these ways of curing cancer with the actual resources inside the person.
Okay. So he has experience of the stock market.
Exactly, which for us has been a really, but also I would say Paul André was the first person I actually spoke to about a couple of years ago now, that introduced me when he heard about what we were doing. He said, this, you can say, as a medtech case, even though you're not in the market selling, this is really interesting for the investor market because you are having a very clear route to where you want to go and some visible steps en route to that. So he's, you can say, has been advising us for some time and joined the board together with the two other ladies in the beginning of June. So.
Sten har berättat lite grann om den bakgrunden som ledningen i bolaget har med Hussein och Sten själv, men också har vi, ska man säga, de övriga styrelsemedlemmarna, vilken kompetens de har inom det här området. Och att det tar 1,5 år kan man säga för att få de här tillstånden för att kunna sälja över disk när det gäller hörapparater både i Europa och i USA. But these, you're 5 people and you're going to sell to US, you're going to sell to India, you're going to sell to Thailand, etc. You need probably more capacity.
We do.
What do you do? How do you fix that when you go to the market?
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, you can say we can't enlarge the board to address all the markets. We do have plans of addressing, adding a few more people with competence in different areas to the board. But beside that, we actually have, you can say, an unofficial advisory board today. We've got some deep expertise in particular the Indian market right now. I've been living and working in the US, and I know basically a lot of people and other actors in that space.
So the contacts,
old
contacts.
And also I think that there's just a lot of resources out there that are interested in partnering with us. But of course, we do have to build up local representation in the markets that we're looking to do. I would say beside that team we have here, and I will get back into that later on in the presentation, but we are really now putting together a stellar leadership team with people with the right industry experience to take this kind of different offering out into the market, both through online and through this sort of established retail channels.
Och Sten berättar nu det att vi kommer att finnas många fler personer än de här 5 personerna bakom bolaget när man väl sätter igång och börjar sälja och gå ut på marknaden, vilket kommer ske om cirka 1 år ungefär från idag. Okay. Please go on.
All right. So I would sort of shift gear a bit and just really put in context, what is this problem that we are addressing and why is that important? And it is important because there is, according to WHO, 500 million people in the world that has what we call disabling hearing loss. And that's basically that they cannot hear what you are saying to me when I'm standing like this. You have to shout before they sort of hear something. So basically, 500 million people in the world is a large number, and around 400 million of these do not have a quality solution for the hearing loss today. Why is that? Well, the problem is that there is really only around 45 to 50 million products in use today of hearing aids in the world. And that's because the industry only sells around 16 million hearing aids a year. When Hussein started, I believe that number was around 13 million. So you can say it's a quite slow growth industry today. And that's why we are part of the companies that are thinking we can change that paradigm. We can really move the whole industry into a different kind of working mode by adopting some of the principles from essentially consumer electronics innovation. Things are much faster happening there than in the hearing aid industry, as I see it. I've been spending most of my career actually working with consumer solutions in some way or another. But if you look at the numbers here, so basically, that's the number today, 500 million. WHO predicts that in 2050, that number will have risen to close to 1 billion. Around 950 million, I believe, is the number. So you can actually say, if that's the case, there will be even more people in the coming years who need a solution. And most of these people are not in the Western countries. They're actually in what we can call emerging economies or developing countries. And why is that? Well, it's because of many aspects around hearing health from early life, untreated kind of, you can say, conditions in the ear that basically leads to poor hearing later on in life. It's also due to all the people listening to loud music in their ears today. Basically, with AirPods and all these things, they're playing loud music. They will definitely have hearing loss much earlier in life. So that's the problem that we are set out to tackle. So the dark blue area is really our playground. That's where we say we believe we can go into that market and have a profound impact if we do things differently.
Så vad Sten säger det är att ungefär 45 miljoner hearing aids are currently in use globally. 45 miljoner hörapparater finns igång i världen runt om. Och det kan jag misstänka att det är röst i västvärlden i första hand. Och idag är det ungefär 500 miljoner som verkligen behöver en hörapparat. Och då pratar vi verkligen om att behöver en hörapparat, för de hör så väldigt dåligt. Så det är inte några speciella lite justeringar vi pratar om. Och det här ökar hela tiden därför att människor blir äldre, och sen säger Sten att det finns de som lyssnar på musik väldigt högt som är ungdomar, och de kommer behöva en hörapparat mycket snabbare i livet än vad du och jag har. Vi hörde inte på så hög musik du och jag. So my question to you now is, that's a mission you have.
That's the mission.
And how are you going to solve that mission?
Well, I think the sort of old Alice in Wonderland tale, if you don't know where to go, then whatever route you take will lead you somewhere, yeah? We are quite aware of where we want to go. And that's why in our daily work, we think about this graph, these people. And when we talk to people and see and hear about how things are in the countries we're working in, that really is what drives us. So, and that's basically, that's from where we take our cue on what to do and how to do it. And of course, it's a tall mission we have set out on. We are a small company, but I believe that we can have a significant impact if we do things right. And that's where you can say we are now funded to bring out our initial products and start really marketing and start, you can say, carving out that niche for ourselves.
And you think that they could go into a shop and just buy this kind of a device,
Absolutely.
and then they put it on, and they can, after 10 minutes they're going to use it.
That's the premise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge you have.
That's the challenge. Yeah.
And see, not too cheap, not too affordable.
I will come back to that later.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
So basically, why is it that a lot of people do not buy a hearing aid and have it fitted and start using it? Well, as I said, high cost of acquisition is one thing. A good pair of hearing aids will set you back several thousands of dollars. It could be $6,000 for a pair if you can say if you want to invest in that, but you can get them for less than that as well, of course. But there's also a sheer lack of what we call audiologists. That's basically people that can read your hearing profile by running a test with you, and also people who can actually adapt the hearing aid to your hearing profile. In India, it's basically like that there is one audiologist for every 500,000 citizens, which means that a lot of people cannot get even to someone that could help them, even if they could afford the product. But then, as I mentioned previously in my session here, the costly and difficult fitting process, it actually is something that requires many steps to go from, yes, I now know what I want, to actually having it fitted and then adjusted ongoing to your hearing, because there's some fine-tuning that goes on for a considerable amount of time, even after you get it installed. Those are big issues. But then even as you start using it, you have to change battery once a week on a lot of the products, which means that for 2 hearing aids, one in each ear, it's about $60 per year, even just in running cost and so on. So for many people, that sort of is a quite unattractive solution. So what do? Well, they buy cheap products. They buy cheap maybe analog amplifiers or other products that they find. Even cheap products can cost a few $100s in this setting. But the problem is they amplify the sound across the frequency spectrum. So they amplify even the frequencies that a person hears well. So as a result, the hearing gets actually destroyed in those areas that you can hear.
Is that usual? Is that usual?
It's the common way of finding a solution that people can afford. Yes, and so that's why authorities like FDA, they actually say we should not use these type of hearing amplifiers because they basically are only for people that hears well. Not for people who doesn't hear well. So they need different solutions.
But when you talk about India,
yeah.
A couple of $100 are a fortune in India.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
So who is a segment? It's not the poorest one who like to buy this. Who is buying it in India?
So who are buying sound amplifiers today? Basically, you can get them for less than $200. You can get them for like maybe $10 or $20. But these are, basically, as I said, cheap products that are doing a job, but it's not really benefiting the person in the long term. But if you don't have any other options, that's where many people go today.
Och Steen Thygesen berättar nu att det finns billiga produkter, bara för inte många dollar som sådan. Yeah. Men det är väldigt, vi kan säga det rent ut sagt, dåliga produkter. Yeah. För att de känner inte av, och det kan rent av förstöra hörseln för den personen som gör det hela. Och det är också, berättar om, produkter som ska vara mindre devices, små, som inte är så stora. Då kostar det att byta ut själva batteriet. I det här så går det att ladda upp batterierna och använda dem om igen med av ny teknik i upp till 5 år som sådant. Och vi pratade just om vem har råd att köpa den här produkten i Indien och andra ställen.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, you can say our product, we are aiming that at this $250 level, including local sales taxes. Who can afford that in country like India?
$250, and it's all is a digital product.
It's all digital, and it's actually
digital.
with two, you can say, two earbuds. So basically, it's what they call a binaural fit for both ears. So essentially, in India, that's around 16,000 rupees. That's a price where you can also buy a smartphone. So the people that will buy our product are not the poorest of the poorest, but this is we aiming this at this sort of growing middle class where there is like 300 million people that essentially can afford products like this. Many will buy them and you can say gift them to an elderly relative that has got hearing loss. That's what we can see from our investigation. That's a really common approach. People may be working in the US sending a hearing aid home to mom so she can talk, better on WhatsApp and so on. These are the use cases this product is really aiming at.
So next Christmas is going to be the present for everyone.
That's what we hope. So essentially what we build into this is, as I said, this is this hearing clinic. So that's why we emphasize self-fitting, that you really buy it, you put it on, it basically set the earbuds in, you run the hearing test. In 5 minutes, it's actually fitted to your hearing profile. Using the same test that's being done in a hearing clinic, what is called pure tone. So you respond when you can hear the tone at a certain level. And by doing this a couple of times across each ear, we measure people's hearing loss. And then we fit it to the appropriate amplification. So, as I said, it's digital, high quality sound. It's being built to address up to what we call severe hearing loss. A lot of people will sort of be in that spectrum when they get to maybe our age, where we have sort of increasing age-related hearing loss. Some have deeper hearing loss than others, but there's these grades called mild, moderate, and severe, and we are basically addressing, as a product design, moderate to severe hearing loss. We also, of course, can address mild, but if you want to go up to the highest level called profound hearing loss, you need special solutions. That's not where we play, and really no products in this spectrum plays in that regard. You need to have a different approach.
In the Western countries, for example, in Denmark and Sweden, they go to a hearing clinic, but they are not paying the whole sum for doing that. And that could be a challenge also because the society are paying for having good advice.
Exactly, and that's why in our go-to-market strategies, Denmark and Norway and Sweden and doesn't really factor in as the sort of places where this is aimed initially. But what we can hear now, being out talking to people and testing it, is that there's many people saying, well, I kind of need a hearing aid, but I'm not ready for it. So if I use this when I'm watching, whatever TV or sitting at home talking to the family, I just put it on when I need it, and then when I don't need it, I kind of remove them.
They're a little bit ashamed about it.
But it's affordable, and you can pick it up in the sort of Elgiganten or Power, as they call it in Denmark, or Elship or whatever. But basically, you can pick it up as you are buying, your printer paper or whatever it is. It's not that expensive for us. So people, I think, are willing to try something like this. But it is designed, and maybe this is where you can say the anchoring of this story in Sweden. There's actually some important aspects that this is designed by Markus von Euler, who is one of the inventors behind Sound Industries, who are, I would say, one of the leading headphone manufacturers or headphone design companies that are essentially working behind labels like Marshall and many other known ones.
So if you describe the product, you have a kind of a thing you're putting on of the neck.
Yes, it's basically, I could have brought it today, I said I forgot, but basically it is the neck worn, so you kind of put it around the neck, and these, you can say these ends of the product, that we call them pods. They basically rest on your bone here under the collar. And then you have this sort of wires going up, and you install it like that. It's I would say we're working on the design right now, so the final design are going to be really, really attractive. This is what we're showing here is actually the initial prototype design. So the final product will be, I would say, very, very nice, and it'll be looking good. It will be, of course, much larger than one of the small things you can put inside your ear or behind your ear. But that's not the design criteria. It is designed to address stigma, which is one of the big issues we learned in many countries behind hearing loss, that if it looks like something else than a hearing aid, that's actually a plus.
And the end of the product, there you also have the batteries.
We do have the battery and we have the electronics, and there's some quite large buttons so that you can actually control it while not even looking at it.
And when you put it on the first time, are you using a phone or what are you using?
No, you don't have to actually.
Okay.
This has the hearing test is built in, so you can run it just on the product.
Okay.
But actually, now you ask.
Yeah.
We then learned, of course, that if you had access to a larger screen, an easier to use interface, you can also get access to view you can say test result of the hearing test. You can also manipulate it so you can easily slide up and down on the frequencies, much easier than if we had to do it on a few buttons. So we have designed and had developed this application that you can download, that you'll be able to download on an iOS device as an Apple or an Android-based device. And I think you can, of course...
Is it an app or what is it?
It's an app, yeah. And so I think many people will like that. You don't need to use it every time you're then using your device. But I think in Western countries and for many people who carry a smartphone, this is going to be really appealing. But I think the key is that it's not required. And that's one of the things that sets us apart from really all other products, that you need to have something that actually you use to set it up with when you start to use it every time. Like Bose and other products that are, you can say, in our area, they do require that. So.
Now we have been talking a lot, so I've taken some in that's okay, in Swedish. Vi pratar om produkten, att den är designad av en sound, vad heter han? Marcus
von Euler.
Ja, von Euler. Och den är ju på ett sådant sätt att du har i ändarna på produkten som du lägger runt den som en krage, så har man inställningar som man kan göra, och där finns det också batterierna som man kan ladda upp hela tiden. Man behöver alltså inte byta batteri utan man laddar upp dem hela tiden. Och så har du då pluggar i öronen som du plockar in. Och sen har man då möjligheten att kunna göra inställningen direkt i kragen på de här ändarna eller via en smartphone helt enkelt, eller en iPhone som man gör genom en app, och där kan man ställa in hur man vill ha frekvenser och allting så det passar en själv. Och där kan man göra när som helst, kan man säga, koppla upp sig mot den här appen. Så att det ska vara self-fitting hearing, så att man är en egen liten klinik, kan man säga, hörklinik som man då är sin egen, och så man slipper att gå till en hörklinik, utan här gör man det helt och hållet själv. Yes.
And basically, as you can imagine, when you have a product connected with a smartphone, the data are literally available to upload into what we call the cloud. So the cloud being basically a service based in servers somewhere in the ether, hosted by one of the leading companies.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about that is that once we have hundreds of thousands of users having their data available, of course, according to the GDPR legislation and other kind of guidelines on how to use anonymized or data with a certain, you can say, personal identification, we can actually learn from these data. So one of our intents is to really start leveraging the fact that we will know a lot about people's hearing around the world to actually create better products. So we can learn from how people are using it. We can learn about hearing profiles. We can even maybe help research institutions understanding hearing health in areas where you otherwise would have no way of getting feedback from actual end users. So we think this is part of this roadmap that we can start investing more in over time and really, as I said, do a better job.
Eftersom inställningarna kan sparas i nätet, alltså inte i nätet utan i molnet, så kommer man också kunna se ifrån bolaget hur folk rent generellt, inte en styck där, utan rent generellt vilka typer av inställningar som de vill ha. På så sätt kan man då forska och veta vidare vad man har för typ av vanliga åkommor när det gäller hörseln som man kan anpassa och vidareutveckla produkten. Do you need any backup or do you need any new program for the product that you have to load down or something like that?
No, I mean you need to install the app, of course, on your phone. Yeah.
So no new releases, etc. for the product.
No.
No.
So now we have actually been into this area a few times. What is the competitive arena? And of course that's very interesting. If we start by talking about this sort of, you can say the top part of the market, that's with the number one. We call them nowadays the big five, the leading hearing aid companies of the world. There is quite a lot, but you can say this whole group has made a business out of servicing wealthy people, typically, or at least people who are more well-to-do than people in the part of the world we're looking into.
And expensive.
And expensive. So high quality, high cost, selling primarily a lot into Western countries, and of course into the wealthier parts of the populations in countries like India and elsewhere. But basically, a very different business than what we're looking into. They have pioneered a model that is basically quite channel dependent. They are in many cases owning retail outlets who's selling their products and providing a range of services. The other area, sort of you can say the diametrically opposite, is this sort of what we call PSAPs and no names. I will explain what that means, but PSAP stands for Personal Sound Amplification Product. And what I call no names, that's the breadth of products coming out from China, for example, where you can say it's the sort of non-recognizable offerings that typically is not of a great quality.
Is it analog products or digital?
Some are analog.
Some analog.
And some nowadays will be digital because in many ways that's easier and cheaper to manufacture.
And the difference between analog and digital, should explain that for people who don't have these kind of devices.
I would say it's probably very difficult nowadays to find a lot of analog products in the retail because it's not difficult to have a certain chip doing some amplification. So, but basically it is the whole issue of managing and adjusting an analog product. It's much more difficult than with a digital product.
Yeah.
And I think the battery, the analogs generally use more power and
more
so
power,
yeah. So, but I think these products do help a lot of people today. Mm-hmm. And when we think about who we are close to, we are kind of close to this segment from a basically affordability point of view. Mm-hmm. But we are seeking really to build a product in a much better quality that is really has the hallmarks of that top class segment. So basically digital high quality sound adjusted to a person's hearing.
With a low cost product.
Yes. Mm. So, there's this mantra called basically high quality, low cost, and that's what we are trying to do. There's also the other issue that if you want to sell products in India, you actually have to design them for that market. You cannot just take any products and shift it into that. You have to sort of really look at how does things work. That's what we are trying to do. There's one segment that I think many of the investors will probably have read about and heard about, and that's the sort of group of number 3. Mm-hmm. There's quite a few interesting other startups in that space. There's also some industry legends like Bose who are doing products, I would say, very much like our design. Mm-hmm. We have designed them independently, but essentially something you can say same form factor addressing a similar challenge. For us, that's actually really interesting because we were, of course, along the way asked, will people want to have this kind of thing around the neck? It's actually really good to see Bose, basically pursuing the same approach. There's other ones doing the same, and that's where we think we think this form factor has got a lot of benefits to it. But anyway, that segment, Eargo is a very well-funded California startup that are doing very small products that sits inside the ear. I mean, they do cost 10 times as much as our solution, so it is a different kind of space. And there's other products that are doing more sort of like the earbud style and so on. But this is the sort of innovation, I think, in this space, very, very interesting. They all work around that area called moderate hearing loss. So we are really trying to take this sort of step up and address really sort of the more severe hearing loss with our offering at a lower price point. So,
but these kind of moderate hearing loss have small batteries, don't they?
Yes, they have definitely. They are quite small batteries,
Yeah.
And many of them.
And you have to bring them out and change them.
No, not all those guys actually have built-in rechargeable batteries.
Batteries.
Yeah. So, but I would say that they typically come with these boxes where you have to put them in after having used them for
right. You have to put it out.
So they charge, just like AirPods. And that seems to be sort of like generally accepted that that's quite good. Our product actually has a battery that can last 2 days before having to be recharged with something like 8 hours use per day. So, we've really put a large battery into ours because we know in some of the markets that we work, people don't get to charge a device every day. Some people forget it, but also the electricity is not always on when you want to charge it. So there's some design criteria that are definitely different.
All right. So this kind of thing moderate loss. Vi har precis nu pratat om att det finns 3 olika segment vid sidan av Audientes som det finns på marknaden. Och de första produkterna som står på nummer 1 som ni ser, det handlar om väldigt bra produkter, men också som kostar väldigt mycket, som är då för de som har väldigt mycket, som har råd att kunna ha de här typerna av produkterna. Och det här finns bara i västvärlden. Den andra är då produkten som är PSA, no names. Det görs i Kina, andra ställen som har kanske en mycket sämre kvalitet bakom det hela och kan till och med vara skadliga många gånger. Och där finns det till och med analoga produkter bakom det här, men de kostar ändå mer än vad Audientes produkter gör. Och sen den tredje produkten som ligger på high cost ner till middle hearing loss, så att säga, moderate hearing loss. Och där som kostar mellan 1800 till 2600 danska. Men det är pluggar som man stoppar in i öronen, så kan man ladda upp över natten och så vidare, som vi känner igen från många ska man säga, musikhistorier som man ska lyssna på musik och ladda upp. Och det är inte ibland att man kanske har tillgång i de här länderna vi pratar om att kunna ladda upp med elektricitet, utan det här batteriet håller mycket längre som har det i Audientes. Men alla de här produkterna är mycket dyrare, så att man har kombinerat då bra teknik till låg kostnad. And how can you, is it the kind of production you have, would it's going to be low cost in this and a huge number of it, mass product?
Yes, that's the intention. And so, can say this is our initial foray into the market with an offering we think are really designed for how people, we believe, want to use this. I think many of the other solutions are really interesting, and we might go there as well over time with some other offerings. But this one we have made it in a way that it can be manufactured at a let's just say at a good price for us.
Yeah.
So we can have a good margin where we're going to bring this product out into the market. We will be able to make a decent return on every product we sell to a distributor or we sell online. The next, you can say, element of why is this a good investment for Swedish people is that the factory who is actually producing our products is a Swedish-owned factory based in China, but it has it's a family-owned Swedish business that has been doing these type of products for quite a few years.
Family-owned, but production in China.
Yes,
I think I recognize this. Yeah?
Yes, and we definitely think that this combination of you can say trusted culture-wise, people that has been doing products with our designer for many years, that's one of the ways we can reduce risk in the whole supply chain area. But this is a simple product to actually manufacture, which means that we can bring this out into the different channel steps, and still everyone is motivated to handle it and bring it out in the market at this relatively low price.
And you have a prototype today, and you know that it's working, but could you have some problems with the product further on when they use it? Do you have to change the product, or what have you been doing?
So that's why we have basically been testing the actual prototypes with people in the markets for a couple of years now, and has been, you can say, learning a lot. Our aim is when we ship this product that there isn't any box in that has to be fixed subsequent to sale. So we are in this process now. You can say our aim is to be in the market, start selling it really from the sort of third quarter next year, and so
in a year from now.
Yeah, so basically, but now we're in fourth quarter, so we should be out with it before then.
Okay.
And our aim is basically now we're doing, you can say, the last round of testing now here in the next quarter, and then we are really starting to ready this for manufacturing. When you do that, you run several batches of products that you are, of course, continuing to test, but you do it with the aim in mind to be able to mass manufacture them. So with like thousands a week, and increasing that. That's where we are heading into next year.
But the program is ready. The program is there, and you have checked it, double-checked it, etc., and tried it to many people.
Yes, but we will continue to test it because, again, a product that has the aspiration of becoming basically a medtech offering has to have a high quality. And so,
Så en hög kvalitet men ett lågt pris och att en stor upplaga som kommer att produceras och komma in på marknader som är Indien, USA och massmarknad som det kan vara frågan om. För att kunna, det är det man kan göra för att kunna hålla priset nere på produkten. Och produkten tillverkas i Kina men är ett svenskt bolag som då ansvarar för att alla typer av kontroller så att det här fungerar. Vi har pratat en liten stund om hur det här kommer gå till och det kommer gå igång det 3:e kvartalet nästa år är det här fullt ut. Då finns alla tillstånd och då finns det allting man kan köra.
Okay.
Please.
So basically, as we already have talked a bit about, our initial focus has been on India. The reason being is actually that we have had some co-funding from the Danish Market Development Fund called Markedsmodningsfonden, and that has helped us focus on really a very sizable market that has got some structural and other challenges that we can address with our solutions. So that's where we've been spending a lot of our time. Now, it happens to be a predominantly English-speaking country, so that is making it easy for us to actually start there. And once we have this sort of English, you can say literature and product description and everything, you really are ready for many other markets. So, of course, we will do many localizations, but that's where we are starting. And there's many countries surrounding India that we have in mind as well. So the actual, you can say, anchoring and then starting to bring out the product into the surrounding markets is definitely a logical step. We have had essentially people also living in Thailand, and we've been spending a lot of time in the Philippines previously. So we know these markets quite well and can see that they are natural places to bring this offering into. So that's the sort of, you can say, that is the first phase, but of course it's a phase that stretches across a good few years. So,
Steen Thygesen säger att man har alltså inriktat sig på indiska marknaden först. Det är därför att man har fått en viss finansiering från Danmark för att gå på den marknaden. Man har varit i Filippinerna och tittar på Thailand och så vidare. Man kan de här marknaderna väldigt väl på grund av den erfarenhet man har haft tidigare från Nokia och den typen av produkter som där man har introducerats med low cost också, som har varit delvis från när det gäller mobiltelefoner och annat. Och här nu är initiala fokus, det är Indien helt enkelt och Asien och däromkring. Ja.
And then basically you can say what follows from then on. Well, a year sort of into our launch, we expect to be in the US market as part of this whole opening up of the new channels called over-the-counter. I will come back to that in literally one slide. So, and then the European market, we have received increasing levels of interest because this offering we have seems to be regarded a bit along the lines of reading glasses. So basically, you can buy these quite good glasses for not a lot of money, and they can help a problem and then you might sort of course, upgrade to more expensive products later on. But from opticians and other channels, they see this as a way of alleviating kind of hearing loss, from the outset when people start to become annoyed by it. So we are going to explore the European scene as well as we move forward. And you can say across all of this, we have this sort of online sales channels. Again, I will come back to that in a few slides.
Okay.
But essentially, you can say when we have an offering that is able to be sold in different markets, it's almost our duty to bring it out there because we want to grow our business and increase the sales. So we're going to do that in a sensible way that we can handle as a growing organization.
Så man vill nästan titta på den glasögonmarknaden där man kan gå in på en bensinstation eller gå in på en optiker och köpa en viss skärpa på det hela. Och det ska vara lika enkelt att köpa en hörapparat i den här typen. Och på den mer västerländska marknaden kan man väl säga som att man köper detta helt enkelt och använder det direkt och ställer in det hela själv direkt.
Yeah. So I think I already explained about why are these markets interesting, but they're very interesting because there is very, very large populations across a lot of these Asian countries, and a lot of people that has got this type of hearing loss that we can essentially help.
How do you get these figures?
These are actually published by called Global Burden of Disease. So basically, it's a database maintained at the University of Washington, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates organization and other people, but they basically keep track of a lot of health-related data. So that's where you can say this insight is coming from. There's some industry data as well, but they are the most trustworthy along this. And you can actually see as well in the database across different types of hearing loss, how many people have a certain type of hearing loss. So all taken with a grain of salt, but this is essentially, you can say, large numbers in markets that are all growing economies with more and more people able to afford high-tech products like what we do.
Okay.
So,
yep.
Yeah, okay. So basically, just coming back to, why is this US market so interesting? It is interesting because a very large and homogeneous market, more than 300 million citizens, more than 30 million people suffer from disabling hearing loss. So for us, when looking at that market, I mean, again, I know it having lived there, people buy products in different ways than they do in other parts of the world. And I think online has become a huge thing there as well. But basically, this thing about over-the-counter is so obvious in the US market. And especially, hearing aids like in Denmark and Sweden cost quite a lot. 15,000 for one hearing aid is sort of what they say average price, $2,400.
So they get a shock when you come with this kind of product with this price.
Now, of course, in the US market, I mean, you will be able to find inexpensive products, but not something that is regarded as a quality hearing aid. And that's what this whole legislation is about, that the government wants to basically get more competition in the market by allowing people to buy less costly products through more mainstream channels. So this basically talks right into our strategy. So the ones that are really looking at exploiting this are exactly pharmacists, opticians, and other consumer electronic stores. So that's why the US for us is really interesting.
Så eftersom det inte finns några butiker i västlanden och i USA som är då att man köper hörapparater, så måste man gå på andra ställen som pharmacies, apotek och opticians, optiker som man kan köpa de här produkterna på. Men det är en homogen grupp kan man säga i USA med 300 miljoner som är vana att betala mycket för en sån här typen av hörapparat, och man går till hörkliniken etc. Så att min fråga var, får man en chock när man tittar på den här produkten att den är så mycket mindre? You will not having any kind of higher price on US than the other ones?
It is conceivable. Yes, it is conceivable, and we may sort of employ some differentiated pricing. That is clear. I would say the US, being homogeneous, is also very high distance between the rich and the poor, and that's why there's some elements of what we see in India, that there is a large group of people that really does not have an ability to buy an existing offering there.
And this is for the middle class?
This is, I would say, this is for the middle class, maybe you can say the lower middle class and beyond. And then also just as an ad hoc solution for people that has a certain need for maybe an elderly relative who is in a retirement home or somewhere where they just cannot get in and do these hearing tests and so on. So yeah, so this is kind of...
You don't have to shout to them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you can say, if we just sum up the go-to-market strategy, distribution partners, retail partners is really the sort of classic retail entry there. We think this is really interesting for us for various reasons, but really because they are generally used to handle products for that kind of market. They're going to, I'll come back to that in a slide or two. And then the whole online segment is basically where we've got a very simple offering that many people will be able to access from various sources. So that's the sort of, the strategy is to basically, from the outset, work on these.
Isn't this the key problem, to find the retail partners, to retail everywhere, to sell a lot?
It totally is. And that's why, if I can just maybe continue on this one. So basically, these are just, I would say, these are examples on the different actors that we see being in our sort of map. So basically, if we start from, you can say the middle really, specialty retailers is where we see and really a need and opportunity to address from the outset. So people who are used to handle, you can say, health-related offerings is a great place to start. Opticians, pharmacists, but also the hearing aid clinics that are selling this type of products and know the issue about cost and availability. And even, you can say, doctors, practices in India, they do have a more commercial approach to also handling products and introducing it to, you can say, the local retailer next door and so on. So this is kind of where we are starting with that approach, what we call the brick and mortar channels. At the same time, online, there's the whole sort of, you can say, the more broad e-tailer segment, Amazon and Flipkart and so on. Very, very interesting places. Quite competitive, but you can say people search for these things and they should find ours. And then there's also special stores for hearing aid products. Very obvious that we need to be there. This is kind of where we start focusing and then building relationships with the distributors and wholesalers who are handling the products in markets like India. So make sure we can get it out there and then that we can move it around to the retailers that are selling it.
Så vi pratar om det, alltså det här är då the key problem, den stora utmaningen att hitta olika distributionskanaler ut med produkten. Och det kan vara specialty retailers eller speciala som optiker och apotek som jag nyss nämnt innan. Men det kan också vara att man går på Amazon och köper det direkt därför att man söker på detta, man vill ha det här, man har hört talas om någon som har det och man tittar på priset och allting annat sådana saker. Och sen har du då andra typer av retailers, chains som man kan gå på, typ Walmart som är jättestora i USA och så vidare. Och vi pratar om segmentet, vi pratar om medelklass, men alltså lägre medelklass som kan köpa de här typerna av produkterna. De är lättåtkomliga, lätta att starta om. Så att det är online och det är lite överallt kan man säga, aktörer. Och,
I think they call it omni-channel nowadays.
Omni-channel, yeah.
And that's why, so we're building a business platform to handle these types of relationships. So we can do it efficiently and with sort of, you can say, as a lean organization. So we're hiring people right now for online and the sort of classic retail. They're starting basically next week. So
you're preparing now.
We're preparing now, and there's a lot of work in educating the channels, but also getting ourselves set up to service them well. So we have a lot of appreciation for that phase as well.
All right.
So
when they call them from Walmart, how does I start this product? They can
exactly, and that is why you can say, so in the longer term, when we qualify for that, the retailers and larger chains is definitely places we would like to go because that's an obvious place. But you can say you have to prove yourself to get into those.
Right.
Yeah, that's clear. So what is it that we expect? So essentially, our expectations for sold units is the sort of key thing. So next year we will be selling around 7,000 products is our goal. And then we're going to ramp up in the coming years towards basically being able to sell, I would say, eventually millions of products per year. But we're going to take this step by step, and essentially in order to sell like 45,000 next year and 120,000 the coming years and so on, we of course have to have a certain channel presence, and we need to be able to move products through the different retail channels. So our big task is to sign up and make productive retail and distribution partners, as well as, you can say, cracking that online sales opportunity. That's what is essential to us to, you can say, start moving in that direction.
Redan nästa år ska man sälja 7000 produkter och vi hörde att det var Indien i första hand som man ska gå på, men man kommer att öppna också andra kanaler runt om i världen för att känna av vad kan trycket komma snabbast som det är frågan om. Och det här handlar bara om sälj. Ja.
Yes, det är det verkligen. So you can say the expectations to our business having been out now raising 40 million krona. Danish kroner from the stock market here. So we are investing them in building that sales platform and, you can say, the product offerings that can drive this business.
We take a small break there.
Yeah.
40 million Danish krona. Alltså 40 miljoner danska kronor var en emission som gjordes i höstas för 1,5 månad sedan ungefär.
Yeah.
Och den var fulltecknad och till och med flera som det frågar om. Och nu är Audientes på First North i Köpenhamn.
Yes.
Så de som är svenskar, de måste alltså gå in på det First North i Köpenhamn för att se kursen och allting annat,
Yes.
var man ska köpa den någonstans. Men det finns på Avanza och alla andra ställen
Yes.
och Nordnet, så man då kan hitta den, och man tittar efter Audientes som så att säga keyword bakom det hela. Och nu är då man på gång att så att säga, så det är ingen emission, utan emissionen är avklarad, utan man är uppe på First North i Köpenhamn, och man kan gå in och köpa så att säga aktien direkt redan inte idag men imorgon. Börsen är stängd. Och det betyder att man kan följa kursen, man kan följa vad bolaget är, vad det gör, vad det händer och sen, men man kommer inte se någon försäljning förrän tredje kvartalet nästa år. Så att det är en förberedelsefas.
It is true, and I think this situation we're in, you can say we are, to all intents and purposes, we are a medtech company on its way to the market. So we have set out some quite clear milestones about basically what we're doing now, what we're doing kind of the next quarter, what we're doing the next half year, and where this is going to lead to.
And you must communicate all the time.
And that's what we will do. And of course, we want to communicate when, the really exciting things are happening, and we will do that. And that's up to us to do that well. This sort of, you can say, the key milestones for us right now is to build an organization and complete the product to check this out in the market and start driving this, you can say, momentum in the market that will lead initially next year to the initial revenue being generated, products being sold, and then you can say over the coming years, get more and more scale in that, and then you can say our expectation is that in 2024, we should have a business that is actually starting to break even and generate, you can say, increasingly good returns to our investors. That's the journey we are set out to do, and we've done, of course, our planning around that, but
På de här bilderna ser vi development in turnover, hur mycket man kommer att sälja och vad det är värt, revenue, och sen ser vi det EBITDA performance 2024. Man kommer att ha break-even och leverera vinst 2024. What about, now I shall ask you a really hard question. What's about the margin of the product?
Yes.
What can you say? Can you evaluate it in percent, or can you?
I can say.
Can you describe it?
I can definitely describe it. And so let's just say this is a product that is $200 before local sales tax. Then our expectation is to sell this to the channels around $100, and then they will do the local markup. It is different. It's different if it's an online channel, but if we go through this sort of, you could say the classic retail channels, then that's the range. So you can say
different kind of margin on different kind of channels.
It is because some channels will invest a lot in handling the product and marketing it locally. Other channels will more or less just take it in and put it in the window, and then if people don't come and buy it, they will not be happy. So we need to do the marketing. So that has a clear impact on what margins you kind of agree.
But you have to produce the product and put it on stock before you sell it, and there you bind a lot of money in the stock for this kind of product.
Exactly. So the being a hardware business, this is, you can say, one of the perils that you do need to you need to handle this, you can say, stock production issue, and you need to be able to sort of move the goods to the right place in a sensible way. And but our margin, we sort of will be around the 60% gross margin around the actual offering in itself. So you can say what we pay for it and what we sell it for, and those 60% we need to, of course, invest in you can say our marketing around that and other aspects. So so it leads to basically a business in the, you can say, from the sort of when it gets into the more steady stage, that you can see sort of industry benchmark kind of EBITDA margins that would be between, I would say, that sort of 10 to 20%. That's where you sort of get,
around about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need the money first in the issue, 40 million Danish kroner, because to produce and to start the business.
Yes. Now, if I can actually, I think the next slide, if I just jump to that one, sort of, because then you can say, what are you going to spend the money on? You raised, and essentially, the way this pie chart is the graph with the sort of maximum subscription, the 40 million. So we're basically saying that in equal amounts, investment in in new product development and completion of this product is sort of like, you can say it's a big chunk, around 30%. The same we see going into sales and marketing. Marketing here, including, of course, advertising and other things. But we allow a significant part of this to handle what we can call production costs. And that is the working capital and other things to have the products made and taken out to market. But of course, on the production cost, we will generate a certain margin of revenue. But that's where we sort of have allocated the funding. And then, of course, you can say also to keep getting the actual approvals and seeking patents and other things around the innovations we do. So
I would say the production cost is very low.
The production costs are low, but also it's the way you can sort of have this made that, yes, we have to buy the tools, but the working with the factory to forecast what we are selling means that we don't have to order like 500,000 products. We can do it. You can say we start with thousands per week and we ramp up, or thousands per month. But that's a sort of art. And I would say the factory we work with, their Flexworks is very flexible in that sense. They have a good model for companies like us. So we get access to, you can say, we get access to all the experience and set up around making this kind of products and relationships with the supply chain. So they're buying many components for millions of products per year. So that benefits us. So this is the modern way of doing this kind of products, I would say.
Det här är det moderna sättet att bygga upp ett sånt här företag. De här pengarna som man tog in i emissionen, de används ju för att kunna bygga bolaget, för att kunna producera produkten och för att kunna få ut den här på bästa möjliga vis till tredje kvartalet. Men vi ser också att vi har kostnader som patent och vi har production costs som är ganska låga i förhållande till de andra kostnaderna i det här bolaget. Så att produktionskostnaderna är låga därför att man producerar väldigt många produkter och har verktygen klara som sådant och hoppas att den här produkten ska hålla i många år framöver utan att behöva utveckla den för mycket. Men det finns också en R&D, product development, i den här kostnaden som ligger. Det är inte bara historiska utan det kommer också vara för framtiden.
Absolutely.
All right.
So basically, and I alluded to this previously. This is, you can say, the simple picture here that we are right now in fourth quarter. We are in what we call the test and pilot phase. So we are now getting the final rounds of prototypes made for going out. We are adjusting things around that. You still do that close to the market. But then we're spending the first half next year getting this ready for the mass production.
Right.
With larger rounds and testing it continuously and enhancing. And then you can say, then you are ready. That's the aim.
And the thing that you can sell it over a country.
And of course, as we make 300 units, these units will be going out in the market and being validated and reviewed by the different channel partners. So this is going to be a super exciting phase.
Right.
I'm conscious of time. I don't know how we are doing there. So
that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So basically, the key numbers we just reported.
Right.
You can say in some ways they are maybe not surprising. We have a certain amount allocated for the IPO transaction costs. Marketing around that means that we had this much larger loss than we have had before at any time, around 3.3 million Danish kroner. Some of the transaction cost also went on to the share, the equity. So you can say the balance sheet. So, but basically, we projected we would spend around 4.1 million Danish kroner on this IPO, and I think with all the different elements that was around that. So in line with expectations. Of course, we have not sold products yet. We don't have any other operating income, so that whole sort of top line is not that exciting. The good thing is that we have got, you can say, significant support from the investor side to actually have now around 35 million Danish kroner to invest in that whole journey we just talked about. And that's what we are, that's where we are right now, really, with sort of the other numbers are maybe not super, you can say, telling as well, but as we now move forward, this will be a different picture. We've always been very prudent in handling costs in our organization. We are lean. We have some great partners that we are working with deep expertise in different areas. So we are, we will be investing more now in growing the business and growing the cost as well, but with sort of really, let's just say, a Scandinavian mindset.
Okay.
So what did we do last quarter here? We actually met the targets we had around product development, getting the next prototype ready, basically the next design iteration having done and ordered the prototypes. And so we're moving forward with all these things. We are enhancing the smartphone app design, really focusing on some of the usability aspects, and really sort of now in this quarter we'll be doing tests around the whole physical aspects of the product with the partners in India, in Germany and Denmark. And so that's basically, we have sort of moved into the next phase of our company's evolution, working with real people on testing this product that is going to be in the market soon. So we are busy at work, I would say. In order to get to that point, we have been bringing on 4 new people here in the last quarter in really key roles. You know, we have a very experienced designer who is working on finishing this product for the manufacturing and all the aspects around the consumer electronics, you can say, points of view. We've brought in a user experience expert again with view to make this elements around the usability really, really excellent. And we are right now bringing in some people in the leadership roles around sales and operations. So.
Vad vi såg på de förra bilderna var helt enkelt hur man kommer att använda pengarna och vad det har kostat att ta in pengarna, för det gör det alltid i den här emissionen. Men man har runt idag 45 miljoner danska kronor för att kunna... 35 miljoner danska kronor att använda sig på att kunna komma in på marknaden och börja sälja, som det sagt, 7000 enheter nästa år redan. Och nu har man då anställt 4 personer ungefär för att bygga den här marknadsorganisationen i Danmark.
Yes. So maybe just a few things about commercial, because you know, even without that many people,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is what it's about, and that's the sort of thing that I think is personally is very, very gratifying. Now we can start really executing on all these things. So basically, right now we are building up this, you can say, engine or platform that allows us to work across these different e-tailers. So you can say the whole online platform of our business. The online platform, of course, supports all the work we're doing as well with the other channel partners. You know, we have this seamless flow, and we're working on setting that up. We continue the dialogue with Indian and other, you can say, channel partners in other countries, but we are basically bringing in a local country manager in India now, based in India, who is a very experienced industry person.
You're building an own organization.
We are.
Yeah.
We have to be present in that market, and depending on the way we're going to scale, we will need to have people who are close to the local.
You can trust
yes,
also.
yeah.
Right.
And who knows how these things work. And that's really is the model. If you get the initial team right, then you know everyone will follow from that. That's such a crucial thing. So in the coming month, we expect to be able to announce more partnerships and go-to-market collaborations. And we have this project with the Danish Market Development Fund. We're going to end that in this year, so by the end of this year. So we are, you can say, in the final phases of doing the things around testing and adapting the product for the Indian market.
What is their interest in this kind of thing?
Yeah, but they were set up some years ago to help bridge that gap between early stage funding and basically availability in the market. So they call that the gap of death that they were sort of set up to address. And they're now actually they're being moved from where they were placed in the whole government machinery to the Innovationsfonden in Denmark, Danish Innovation Fund, and Vækstfonden. So they are, you can say, we are probably one of the last projects that are still active in their world. They're under the Danish Erhvervsstyrelsen. I think is the one of the agencies under the Ministry of Commerce. I think it's yeah. So basically, so they've been a great support for this, but I think they will be very happy when we finish this and we can set a nice bow around that project. You know, tie a nice bow around it. But that's their interest. They're funding this this year with I would say a bit more than a million Danish kroner as is sort of what you can say co-found certain costs associated with doing the test in the local market.
Så innan den här emissionen kan man säga att man hade en viss stöd från danska Development Fund, alltså det är en slags innovationsfond, och man kan översätta det till svenska innovationsfonden, och växtfond kan man säga, som finns i Danmark. Och det här kommer då att offentliggöras, kan man säga, de olika typerna av samarbeten man kommer att ha med det här bolaget och danska, så att säga, myndigheter, kan man kalla.
So a lot of good companies has come out of their support. So I hope to be one of them. So, but basically, and then of course, ongoing trademarking activities to protect our brand and in the sort of key markets we work in. So essentially, so these are the things that we are.
And you have also patent. I saw patent in the pie diagram.
Yeah, we have some. We do not have patents today, but we have some ideas in our concept that we believe are patentable. So that's what we're going to invest in that to build up this portfolio. Yeah. So
you have to tell more about that in your press releases.
Yeah. So basically, one of the sort of final points I just wanted to make is that COVID-19, what has that meant to us?
Don't talk about it.
No, don't talk about it. But I would say it had not had an impact on the things that we were trying to achieve this year. It did have an impact, I would say, early on when it broke out and there was this uncertainty around, we were trying to close a pre-IPO round. And suddenly you can say investors were sort of uncertain of how would their portfolios develop. So it meant that we closed a pre-IPO round much later than we had planned. But for the actual IPO, it did not seem to have any impact. There was a lot of interest and optimism around what this is about. People had time at home to spend time looking into companies like ours. So what I would say is that the fact that it became apparent that many people in retirement homes and elsewhere could not go and visit a hearing specialist and have a hearing aid fitted because they were closed, the stores. So basically you can say our offering, we can ship that to a person in the retirement home or at home, and they can immediately take it into use and essentially have it fitted to their hearing. So we think that if this pandemic continues, we will be one of the ones that can provide solutions to people even when there's a crisis on, which means that from a sales point of view, we should actually be able to avoid these, you can say, significant effects that the classic hearing aid industry has been suffering from.
So they can order it from Amazon, for example,
and have it delivered.
They opened Amazon yesterday in Sweden.
I saw all these.
But you can order that, and then they can deliver it at home at your place, DHL or what?
Yeah, exactly. But and this is what we see as being an opportunity in its own right for us. So,
vi pratar om att covid-19 har, så att säga, precis som alla andra företag, har liksom sänkt hastigheten på att kunna komma igång. Man gjorde en pre-IPO innan som man då nu har fått vänta lite på. Men detta innebär att man kan sälja det här över nätet och man får den levererad till dörren. Och det gör det att man kan inte gå till en hörapparats, ska vi säga, laboratorium eller något sånt för att testa ut det här, så att det här kan vara ett alternativ.
Yeah. Now, I know we are sort of at the very final stages in
now you want to do something more, yeah?
No, I just want to say that initially our app project was actually, you can say, we had some students at the Danish Technical University helping develop some concepts for our initial app that we are now commercializing.
All right.
And they came up with some great ideas, just like, novel solutions to things that we said we would like that. So we were basically building on that this year with an effort around tinnitus relief, because tinnitus is this humming and buzzing that many people have in their ears. I have something from, a few years ago, and it's kind of annoying, but there's ways you can alleviate that by sort of having some, you can say, tones and sounds that makes the brain run, you can say, adapt to not listen to all that irritating noise. And so we're developing an app that will work in conjunction with our hearing aid, hopefully help people with this. And that's the project we have put the students on. We have sort of described the sort of confines around that, and they're now working on coming up with some great ideas. So we are supporting that with we have got one of our young members of our team, a student helper, is basically working on supporting that.
So your plan is to use this kind of equipment you have to milder the tinnitus problem?
Yes, because our hearing aid will be fitted to how the person's hearing profile is, which means that when we send these tones in, they will sort of appear, you can say, at the right in the right level with the right amplification, and hopefully benefit.
And they can change that themselves.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
put together sound spectrum. So it's a kind of like
So you open a new area here.
yeah, I think there's a lot of people with hearing loss that has got tinnitus as well. So this is a little sort of fun thing to do, but great to sort of collaborate with people on that sort of innovation aspect. So.
Man har alltså gjort ett projekt omkring Tinnitus-appen med studenter, Technical University of Denmark, som har testat med att kunna använda appen som en slags hjälp för de som har tinnitusproblem med en slags, man har en viss ton som då kan dämpa tinnitus som sådant. Så det öppnar en ny affärsmöjlighet som sådant. Ja.
Okay. And then basically you can say we are at this stage where we have now a roadmap ahead, a financial calendar that stretches into more than a year out, and hopefully along the way we will have some really exciting things to share with people, but also outside these events. But these are the events when we will be doing a quarterly or annual or half annual reporting.
So the next is quarter number 4 is in 18 of March.
Yeah.
But you're probably going to send some more press releases about what's happening in the company.
Yes.
Because if you don't,
people forget about us.
Then they will drop on the market.
Yeah, you're right. And then basically, as you mentioned previously, we are traded on the Nasdaq First North growth market in Denmark.
Right.
And people can find us in the different apps that you use to trade with, Nordnet and I think Saxo and the
Avanza.
Avanza, big in Sweden.
Yeah, the biggest one. Yeah. Over 1.2 million customers now at Avanza.
But Sweden has got this very different, you can say, much more advanced in the actual culture amongst investors, that you have much, I think, more
investors, and they're used to buy their own shares and their own portfolio, and they're very good questions they have put. And we will see if they're coming questions to us now. Shall we see that?
Yes, let's go to that. Should
Have
I
a look on it.
Advance here or just leave it on this one?
1 minute.
Yeah, okay.
The first question is, who are your competitors?
Yeah, so I think I did cover that.
I think they want names.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say when we look at the actual named competitors, I mean, I would say I would look towards the sort of products that
I don't mean the no names now.
No, but I would say our competitors are in many cases people who are deciding not to buy a hearing aid or buy a cheap device. But from you can say the more sensible competition, I would look towards the sort of offerings from Bose and some of the other, you can say, products that you sort of put in the air. But again, in India and so on, there isn't really that many direct.
It's more for the US market.
Yeah.
It's not for the Indian market.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Another question is, would you be interested in having a serious business person on board? They are looking for something here, yeah?
We definitely look.
Of course, yes. So
we would definitely like a serious business person, but I take this as actually the one who is having an idea that I would say yes, absolutely. Living in the US sounds like a good fit.
So they can
reach out to me.
They can contact you on the internet, right?
Absolutely.
On the website.
Absolutely.
Where your email address is. So please come back.
Yeah.
Does the data stream work both ways from smartphone? That's the question.
Yeah, that is the answer. Is simple yes. That's the whole idea actually. Yes.
You can also play music from the phone, adjust it for particular thing as a hearing profile. They are looking to have a kind of music streaming with your own profile, hearing profile. That's possible, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Are there any significant barriers precluding Bose here in Denmark from quickly developing its product and also encompass the severe hearing loss patients?
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about what's the problem there.
I think a product that has to handle larger amplification has to be designed from that. Of course, Bose is a resourceful company and they can do many things.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think
But do you have a connection with Bose?
No, we don't have a connection as such, but you know, Bose is one of these, you can say it's a privately owned high technology company based in the US.
Yeah.
And are doing, you can say, a broad range of products across many segments. I would say, how do you compete with a brand like that? And I think we don't want to compete head on with a brand like Bose, but you can say having them paving the way in the sort of understanding about how to treat hearing loss from a new angle is actually really good for us. Building a product category is expensive and time consuming. It's not bad when you've got some big guys setting out, you can say, the actual frame. That's how I see Bose for us. I think, you know, could they do what we are doing? They probably could, but that's not how they've gone about it. They have a different approach to adjusting it for hearing loss. It's about you sort of adjust it in a way that you think sounds good. Yeah.
It sounds that you have found a niche.
Yes.
And it's a huge niche.
That's what I think, and that's why I'm sort of, I think, you know, having these other organizations trying to address the problem, that creates this innovation that we need. Whether they're Bose or Nuheara or Eargo, you know, these are you know, clever people doing smart things, and we need more of those. Yeah.
But Steen, you predict now how much you're going to sell.
Yes.
If you blow the top off, can you sell? Can you deliver? And can you produce these kind? If they're going to be a tremendous asking for to buy the products.
Yeah. So I think, you know, initially we have set some targets that we believe are quite conservative and attainable.
Okay.
And the factory we work with, they make millions of products per year. So if you look at our projected unit sales, you know, initially they certainly have the capacity to handle us. And as we grow, they will like to grow with us. So that's not, I would say, we're not going to sell 1 million products the first year.
No.
So I would be very surprised if we did that.
But you can...
Yes.
You can push it up a bit.
Yes. And you do forecasting and you do, you know, yes, you are in tune with the market and the supply chain. Absolutely.
And which market do you think is the most profitable market? Is it US or India? Where is it?
Yeah, I think India will surprise us all, hopefully in a very positive way.
Right.
The US market has just got so much potential for many reasons because
they're different markets.
Yes, totally different markets.
Yeah.
And then I think the whole European scene and the online elements around that is also to be discovered. And I of course I hope we can beat our estimates, but basically we have sort of said this is where we believe as a new entrant we can commit to do. Now if we go beyond that, you know, very quickly, then of course that's something that we'll be delighted by. But you know, we have to sort of take it step by step.
So what do you say? Buy the share and put it away and pick it up at the third quarter and see what's happening.
Yeah, I think because the nature of our business and our company means that we are on our way to bringing out this innovation that we can capitalize on the coming years. But you have to sort of stay with it for a while and leave us to deliver. I think there's other businesses on First North that are already running a business that you can say is growing from a known level. We're not there yet.
And what's happening with the share price now? Is it stable?
I think it has been sort of around this sort of initial price. It has gone up a bit and it's gone down a bit, and it's sort of hovering around the IPO
and it's going to continue, you think so?
Well, we think that with the sort of roadmap that I see in front of us, we will be continuing to build on you can say what we talk about today, but coming out with sort of more, you can say, concrete and actual milestones announcement along the way. So people can see that we are on our way to deliver on what we said we do. Because selling, 7,000 products next year means that you need to have channel partners.
That's conservative, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. But it's also, you can say, manufacturers. You have this old saying that you have to go slow to go fast later, and you have to get these things in place early on.
All right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, thank you, Steen Thygesen, which are the CEO for this company, and we hope you're having a good luck in the future with this company and this product.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Och tack allesammans ni som lyssnade och har ställt frågor. Vi hoppas att ni kan återigen titta på den här. Vi kommer att lägga upp den på bolagets hemsida så ni kan i lugn och ro titta på den igen. Och vi tackar för att ni varit med. Tack ska ni ha.
Thank you.